Hi, I'm Michael Forrest and today's devlog is all about how I tweaked Video Pencil's pen tool. So Video Pencil lets you draw and do sparkles and stuff like this, and it uses PencilKit, not for that, for this stuff. It uses SwiftUI for the interface, and I did some stuff in Blender, which I'm just going to touch on today as well. So as I said, Video Pencil uses PencilKit for its drawing, which gives a lot of subtle rendering detail, so it takes care of like the angle of the pen and all this stuff. And it performs really well, but the trade-off of that is you don't get much control over what it's doing. So when I added, conversely, when I added drawing to shoot, it was like Alex Lindsay was asking me to smooth the line, so I ended up having to learn how to add Catmull-Rom smoothing, and I had to implement this all myself. So I sort of had to find, you see it, like I found a paper, and this was pre-ChatGPT as well, so I had to figure it out on my own. So yeah, but it's like even just smoothing the lines can be a bit complicated, and I had to do that in Shoot. But I have to say, like, the reason I wanted to look at this week was I really don't like how much it tapers these lines sometimes, especially when you've got a thick pen and you just try and draw something. You get this big beefy line, or you get it's quite, find it a little bit oversensitive to the thickness, and sometimes I wish I could just get like an even width line. So this week I was having a tinker with some of the different ink style options. So pen is the one that I've always used. These other ones don't really work when you can't really draw on video with crayon. It just doesn't really show up. You need kind of like a white surface or something. So crayon was no, fountain pen kind of weird. Marker is a bit like translucent, so that looks all weird, and I have to figure out some rendering, compositing stuff to make that happen really. Pencil doesn't, I don't know, I might, and then watercolors, you know, that's not going to work on video. But this one, monoline, actually I was tinkering with it, and it seemed like a good way to get a nice stroke that I was looking for. But you see, like, this is kind of my choices. I don't really have much more control. There's not really options on these apart from like the color and the width. So I looked at this. Oh, I've actually tidied this code up since, but basically, Video Pencil supports iOS 15, and this monoline tool was only brought in iOS 17. So I've sort of like I've given it an even width property, which sort of switches between monoline and pen, and then it just like falls back to the old one if you've got an older iPad, which is fine. And here we can see how I'm going to show you how the config sheet looks. So I just talked about that even width thing that I did. So this is my SwiftUI preview, if we can find it. So I added like it's going to be all weird and wide, but I added this just even width toggle. So this just does that. Let me just see if I've forgotten something. And just, no, what I wanted to talk about here was the modify function on view there. So you see this modify, then inside it goes if available, and then like, you know, just spots that tool even width thing. This is actually to like update the tool, but it's used somewhere else. But this modify thing I find really handy. So we've got an extension on view, modify, it's a view builder itself, and then you pass in this view builder function. But I find out what the result of that function is first, and then if it's nil, so if it's like doesn't get called, then it just returns the original or it returns the result. So that's a really neat way of being able to conditionally show stuff in SwiftUI. And you see I've like tried quite a few. I've tried some other ones. I didn't really like this if thing. I didn't really like this like iOS 14 blah blah blah. So I'm quite happy with that approach. Now, something else, like if you've ever used PencilKit, then you might have noticed that I'm not using the built-in tool picker. So I'm supposed to be sharing the iPad right now. So let's make sure we're sharing the iPad. So if I just show my iPad, That's interesting. So this tool picker here, you'll see it's not actually the native one. We've got a selection of different pens. So let me just get this out of the way. We've got a selection of different pens, and each one can have like a color preset. So the native one just sort of gives you the different pen options, and then down here it's got the color, which I found really an awkward way to work, and you can't save your favorite colors, and it's just a bit of a pain. It was a lot of taps to do anything. So I sort of re-implemented this, but you see now we've got this even width option. But yeah, so I kind of rendered out all of this stuff, but it means like when I add a new thing, I can do something cute, and I can add in sort of extra features like this, like the spotlight feature and some extra buttons. But yeah, this whole floating panel, like the spring animation, I kind of like had to sort of put in and make it kind of snap to the right edge and stuff. The hardest part of this was probably if we look for multiply or screen, right? So we've got all these different assets. So I do them in, so I have like the base asset, and then I have the screen multipliable asset. So we need like a white pass that's going to be basically the specular color. The shiny bit needs to not change color, whereas the sort of base bit does need to change color. So this one I can like multiply by whatever your color choice is, whereas this one I can then just like screen on top of it. So how does that, what am I talking about? Well, first I'll show you how I got those. So I found some 3D models for the different pens, and it's just basically on the internet, and I've got all my kind of cameras set up so I can Command Naught and then sort of go to that camera angle to see that pen. No, that seems to be one that doesn't have one. Let's go camera, regular, snap to that one. So you see we've got these different cameras for the different pens, and then basically like you've got this under view layer, you've got this passes thing where you can say I just want the glossy pass. So that's what I did there. It didn't have quite as many options before. I don't seem to remember having to uncheck everything, but yeah, you can just do a pass of one of the things, and that's how I got those different assets. So you see I've got this whole scene with all my different models in it, including this guy here. So that's I basically, you know, I didn't get any of that for free. I had to do it myself. And here's how they're rendered in SwiftUI. It's annoying me that I keep coming zoomed out, but this is making lots of videos so that I'm forced to fix annoyances in QCam as I go. So I'm going to show you this. This is sort of like my preview render. So pen view, basically it's a Z stack. It sort of figures out what the name of the pen image is, and I basically call these line widths ultralight, light, regular, bold, heavy, mainly just so that I can use that same thing, you know, when I do the little squiggle of the different weights, then I can just like pass that in, and like SF Symbols knows about that. So I kind of use that as the baseline for all my naming, just to save myself one mapping. So we take the multiply layer and render that as a color multiply, and then we take the screen layer, blend mode screen, opacity 0.5, and just make sure that's a drawing group so that that all kind of works, so that's sort of like efficient. And then I sort of wanted to indicate that it was like equal widths was set on something. It's really annoying to scroll around this thing when it's, I don't know how to make it a bit. So you see we've got some little equals overlays on there for when it's, can I zoom in even more maybe? Let's see if it's gonna, it just doesn't let you scroll sometimes. And now we're zoomed out again. Can I, it's not gonna let me do it. So let's just see if we can, okay, you see, but there's like a little kind of equals overlay, and I think that looks okay, but you see there's actually two things here. One was I noticed this pen did look a bit like thin for the ink style, so I just scaled it up a little bit. So there's always these little hacks and workarounds to save having to go back and do the assets again. But here's my little, if it's even width, like put in a little equal sign and blend that with overlay or color mode, and I'm sort of checking the brightness literally by looking at my custom color value and just seeing what the level is, and just to sort of like let you see in that toolbar what that's going to look like. And so the result of all this is going to be well, yeah, just this is the other thing with this is you know, like the widths had to be a bit different for the different ones. So the monoline ink type sort of can have more close together values, whereas for the pen type, I found I had to have like, you know, 1 to 25, whereas this is like 1 to 9. So this is a narrower range. So I just like changed the width ranges to work with that. And then here's how that all looks. If we just go to the iPad. So it's going to be a little hard to see, but this is a normal one. So this is like all like that. And then this green one is a fixed width one. So like it's not sort of like making it all thin and thick depending on the pressure. You see there's a little kind of equality indicator on there. So I'm quite liking it. Sort of makes it easier to work with the thinner tools, I find, because I'm not like having to be super sensitive with it. But yeah, this was just a really tiny little addition. But I just wanted to be able to, when I'm doing screenshots and stuff, I didn't want to have to deal with these crazy different line weights kind of coming through and you know, always being a bit awkward. So yeah, that's all that. I recorded this video using my Mac, using my Mac app QCam Presenter, which I will show you now what that looks like. So here is the script for this video looks like this. So what I'm doing, I've got my titles and graphics in here. Then I've got my, I'm deep linking into the, well, so I'm sharing code files, and then I'm like, oh, this actually selected the different pen tool on the iPad so that I went from the sparkly thing to the yellow pen. I don't know if you noticed that. I didn't actually change that myself. It just did it as part of the script. Here I'm sort of jumping into Xcode in a specific file to show that. Here's my script in here. This is just a big picture. Here I'm jumping to a different script file and sharing that Xcode screen, like, you know. And then my Blender screen share is there. And so it just, you see, and then it's like sharing my iPad on this slide. And we're basically, and then, you know, the last one I jumped through to this other doc shot, so I can show you this one. But anyway, if you're interested in trying QCam, especially for kind of like coding demos, I think it's really handy. Then just give it a go. Come to qcam.app and download it. No strings attached. You don't have to even put your email address in to download it and start playing about with it. And I'm very available, so if there's little features like that would help it, make it easier for you to do tutorials and stuff, then I'm open to ideas. Thanks for watching. Cheers.